Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Flock's Nest Sports Podcast. I am Dallas, one of your hosts, wearing number 9 of the Baltimore Ravens, Justin Tucker. As your resident Ravens fan, I bring the flock.
I'm Brendan, wearing 54 Bobby Wagner of the Seattle Seahawks, and as the resident 12, I bring the Nest.
We have a jam-packed episode for you guys today. The trade deadline ended a couple of hours ago, so we're going to get into all of that exciting news, as well as both Brendan and I's games and our games of the weeks, a small look ahead, and I think we're going to have a Cowboys trash moment. So we shall see what happens. But before we get into that, Brendan, you want to kick us off with some breaking news?
Yeah, so we'll start with the non-trade deadline breaking news.
Yeah.
Just to keep it simple, Stephon Diggs has unfortunately tore his ACL and is out for the entire season. The poor Texans cannot seem to keep their wide receivers healthy currently. That's the second one to go down with a season-ending injury. First, Nico Collins, obviously, and now Stephon
I don't think
Diggs.
Nico's is season ending.
I thought it was.
No.
Okay, well.
He's been out for a couple of weeks, but he is expected to return. We'll see. But yeah, no group really has taken more of a beating than that wide receiver room.
Yeah.
And I always we're critical of guys that hold out and do things, but this is why. Stephon Diggs is a free agent at the end of this year, and without a new contract, it's not likely he'll pick one up until he's recovered.
Yeah.
And that means going without a paycheck for a long time. So really unfortunate for him. Hopefully he can get back at it. Maybe he did enough with Texas or someone else for them to give him a contract, but yeah, it's pretty shitty situation.
It might be a Odell Beckham from a couple years ago situation where he tore his knee in the Super Bowl
Fucking
and then
Odell now.
I meant like the couple years where he like tore his ACL in the Super Bowl and then didn't end up signing for anybody for a year.
Yeah.
Could be that situation. So unfortunate for Diggs, but part of the game, so kind of just have to.
Yeah.
And then hopefully he'll be back healthy next year and be on a team because he's a really good
great wide receiver when he doesn't let his fucking attitude get in the way.
But moving on to a firing, the second head coach to be fired this year, someone we kind of thought would be the first.
This should have been the first.
Yeah, Dennis Allen has been fired from the New Orleans Saints. I do not have their interim head coach in front of me. I don't know who it is. I know it was an internal hire.
Nowhere that was talking about this the last 2 days ever mentioned who the interim was going to be.
Yeah, I never saw it.
I would kind of be shocked if it's not Kubiak.
It's not. I know for a fact it's not.
Then there you go. So I'm shocked. That does surprise me. Look, we expected this going into the season. We weren't sure if it was going to be a mid-season fire or a postseason fire. After the really hot start, we thought maybe they'd kind of righted the ship, but it has been a clusterfuck catastrophe since the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised. I think he's very clearly lost that locker room. I kind of think, well, don't get me wrong, losing to the Panthers is embarrassing, and that's definitely what sealed the deal. I think losing to Sean Payton at home kind of initiated the beginning of this. Losing to the Panthers was just the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, that was the moment that, you can't really come back from that, how bad the Panthers have been.
You can't lose to the worst team in the league.
And to answer the previous question, Darren Rizzi is the interim head coach, and he was the team's special teams coordinator this season.
Okay, that would
So,
explain why I'm like, I don't know who that is.
yeah,
Um, like we talked about with Sala, usually teams have like a little surge after their head coach is fired, despite the Jets' immediate loss.
yeah,
So we'll see what this does. Their season's pretty much over. The
yeah.
likelihood that they make the playoffs is, I think it's like 2%.
It might be less than that at this point, but
So, but hopefully they get it figured out. They have a lot of problems and they know it, which is why they had a very interesting trade today. But we're getting into that in a minute.
yeah. And then a really interesting fact that came out of this game is Derek Carr is now the first quarterback to lose to all 32 teams in the NFL.
That's really sad.
Yeah,
When there are like, what, five who have won against every team?
yeah. He's now lost to every
So
team.
to be the first to lose to every team
I'm
is
pretty sure that's what it was. It might be to 30.
horrifying.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not
Um,
not good.
so yeah, that's not really a stat you want, you know?
But I
Like
thought
that's
it
not
was
the
a
kind of history you want to make.
thought it was an interesting
No, it definitely is.
little.
Especially when you think of like the quarterbacks that could apply to, like that could have been in that situation.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
Brady.
that's Brady, Manning, Rogers. Uh, that's just kind of crazy. That Flacco, for God's sakes. Um,
Okay, I was technically wrong. He's
okay.
only lost to 31, but he can make it 32 this year.
He plays the Raiders this year.
I assume so. Yes, the only team he hasn't lost to is the Raiders, and they play them week 17.
Well, that's a really unfortunate thing to root for, but I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I kind of am. Because
Just,
that,
just it's unfortunate.
I mean, fuck it, you might as well have it.
Yeah, at this point, you might as well take the stat
Yeah,
to its
like,
fullest.
just like at least put your name in the record book for something.
Oh yeah. But yeah, that's
Closest
just
he
a
ever came to an MVP, he got injured. So, like, it's better than nothing.
yeah, it's along the lines of Peyton Manning's most interceptions by a quarterback.
Yeah. So, all right. All right.
Um, on to the trade deadline. I'll let Dallas hit the first one that happened
Yeah.
the least
Um,
recently.
the Ravens, as I talked to you guys in my game preview video, traded for Deontay Johnson of the Carolina Panthers for a
Sixth round pick.
sixth round pick.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh wait, no. They get a sixth round pick. They gave up a fifth.
okay.
So it's
So
Deontay
yeah,
Johnson plus a sixth for a fifth.
fifth. I was like, I
That's my
knew it
bad.
was weird. Um, yeah, and we're not really gonna talk about him today. He was there. He was present. He even saw time on the field. Did not see a ball go his way.
I mean,
So
first
I
game.
think it was, and I think it's a veteran presence thing. I do think it's a response to Amari and D Hop, with Zay having the ankle concern he had, Derrick Henry being older, Bateman, is like Hollywood Brown but better. But he goes through phases of like, oh, today I don't know that I'm supposed to catch the ball. So,
Yeah.
and then Nelly is great, but he's not a top tier target for Lamar. So
Mm.
I just think it's added presence, added weaponry because they have become more pass heavy. Uh, wearing number 18.
Sounds good. One that happened before today as well was the Broncos traded pass rusher Baron Browning to the Cardinals in exchange for a sixth round pick. Um, just the Cardinals need pass rush like desperately. They are one of the worst teams in the league at this. Broncos saw an opportunity to kind of offload a contract and took it. That's that's really it for that one.
Yeah,
Following,
I mean, the Broncos the Broncos are definitely rebuilding. Like I'll talk about it a little bit more. But they need picks.
I feel like it's
They
really
need
weird considering that they
to
are
kind of
still in the playoff hunt, but
they're not gonna stay there, I don't think.
it is a weird decision.
Like
I feel like,
right
but
now, but their schedule's about to get a lot harder
I'm like they do still have to play the
and
Chiefs twice.
they still have to play the Chargers again.
Yeah,
Like their schedule gets a lot harder, and when you search for a quarterback for that long and you give up everything they gave to get quarterback after quarterback, they just don't have the talent on the rest of the roster, which was very evident on Sunday. We will talk about it some more. But they
hmm
need draft picks. They need to be able to kind of bolster and develop. And I assume that's what that trade's about.
yeah, it definitely was. And then the next trade was the Bears sending Khalil Herbert to the Bengals. I do not have the pick in front of me. That I cannot find it, so I have no idea what it is. But I'm gonna guess it was a
I
late
thought it was like a
round.
sixth round,
Yeah.
was what I saw.
This trade does come after running back Zach Moss of the Cincinnati Bengals has been ruled out for the season, most likely with a neck injury. So this kind of just comes as a bolster your running back room. Make sure you have enough guys in there to um, compete every week.
Holster. It adds a body to the room.
Yeah,
It
that's a
does do
body
that.
that would probably play if needed. But that's really it for that one. Um, Now, for one of the weirder trades of the day, the Cowboys traded for Jonathan Mingo of the Carolina Panthers. In exchange, the Panthers get a fourth round pick. They also threw in a seventh round pick to the Cowboys, so the Cowboys got a seventh round pick, Jonathan Mingo, and a fourth round pick. This one is very interesting considering Jonathan Mingo has now gone for more than um, DeAndre Hopkins did, than Deontay Johnson did, and I'm pretty sure if his criteria is not met, it's the same amount that Devontae Adams went for. So
And if any of you are wondering who the fuck is Mingo, exactly.
yeah, second round
By the
pick,
way,
couple years back, has not done anything with the Panthers. Has kind of been a bust. Um, Maybe a change of scenery helps, but I just don't think this is the move the Cowboys need to make, especially with Dak Prescott hitting IR as well today. You're already not looking great to make the playoffs, and your
it's
chances got worse.
it's terrible. Like out of I okay, I don't think their problems could have been solved at the trade deadline. They can't. You need too much to go out and get a nobody, like a literal nobody at wide receiver though, not the option. Not where I would have
Yeah,
gone.
it's definitely.
Even if CD cuz CD's dealing with an injury, like he's not going to help with that.
I think it's weird when you see other wide receivers like Mike Williams went after that
Yeah,
for cheaper. I'm pretty sure to the Steelers. Like there were
like
options out there. You
well,
could have
and
traded for any of the wide receivers prior. You could have done 101 things. I
the
even think there's
other
a
thing,
receiver just sitting on the couch right now that is better than Jonathan Mingo.
oh, I'm sure. The thing that this is what Jerry does. We wait till the very last minute and then we have to overpay. We overpay for Dak, we overpay for CD, we overpay for a
For,
wide receiver that is not going to help us. When we could have gone and gotten D Hop, we could have gone and gotten Amari back, who
yeah,
knows your system, by the way.
yeah, you could have
And
gotten Mari Cooper, Deontay Johnson,
like
DeAndre
there were
Hopkins.
Mike Williams. Like, you had options, but because he sat around, waited, told the media, "No, I'm not gonna make any changes, I'm still all in." Do you know, like, when you say a word over and over and over again, like, if you say "bowl," like, 20 times in a row, it
It's
doesn't
lost
sound
it.
like that word anymore?
Yeah,
That I think that's all in. I don't think he hears it. I don't even think he knows what it fucking means anymore. But, like, you did all of that and said, "Fuck the trade deadline," and then went and paid too much
for a wide
for no,
receiver.
and you really need those draft picks, by the way,
Yeah,
because your cap is way too high.
yeah.
You need rookie contracts.
Is not an intelligent decision because he's only got one more year left on his deal, I believe. Oh wait, no, he has 3 more on a rookie contract.
Okay, well, that's
So
something, I guess.
2024 is guaranteed, 2025 is fully guaranteed, and then 2026 is partially guaranteed. So 2026 is the year that you could truly move on from him. But still not great.
Yeah,
Um,
I I had so many thoughts about this team going into today, and then they announced Dak was probably going on IR, and I went, okay, now my takes don't quite make sense, but they were there and they were hot.
no, yeah, it's just a stupid move by them, but whatever. Um, Now for like the blockbuster of the day, probably the most impactful trade. The
Zadarius. I'm just
no,
guessing. Is that where you're going? Oh,
no,
I thought that was pretty.
I kind of forgot about that one. Where is that one? Oh, there it is. I will do that one next because then we'll get to the one
Okay.
I thought about. Zadarius Smith does go to the Lions from the Browns. This is, I think, a fantastic move. There is a 7th round pick also going to Detroit in exchange for a 5th and a 6th. The 6th is in the following draft, so the 2026 draft. So a little bit down the line, these two of the draft picks are the 7th and the 6th, and then the 5th is this year. Kind of thought that was
Yeah.
important to add. But yeah, the Lions getting Zadarius Smith from the Browns, adding the key edge rusher they need without Aiden Hutchinson in.
Yeah. Thought this was a great move. I was a
Yeah,
little surprised
fantastic.
the Browns moved off him, especially given how their Sunday
I
went.
kind of think at this point they're trying to clear cap and get draft
That's
picks.
fair. That's fair. Um, but I want the Ravens obviously this year, but I don't think beyond like that there's a team I'm rooting harder for outside of the Ravens than the Lions.
Oh yeah,
It's
100%, 100%.
it's great. Obviously, we're going to talk about their game because they were your game of the week
Yeah,
today, but to see them do this, I just think it shows the evolution of the Lions and what they've turned into. And this was a smart move.
yeah,
You didn't overpay. You went out and got what you needed, and this will help them make that push
and
in a weak NFC
so
right now.
people were like, they are going to go get Crosby. They're going to go get Miles
No,
Garrett. I was of the
those
opinion that
two aren't
those,
for sale.
well, one, if they were for sale, they're way too expensive. You're kind of leveraging your future for maybe just a year of them. Well, like let's
Y-
consider it that way. You might only get a year out of either of them before they move on. So I do think a year of Zadarius Smith for what you got is probably worth it, especially with Hutchinson coming back next year,
Yeah,
possibly in the playoffs. I highly doubt it, but um, there was a possibility that could happen, and with his work ethic and what he does, if anyone could do it, it could be him. But um, that is just a really savvy, solid pickup from the Lions,
yeah.
showing that
Like
they
I,
are just the up and coming franchise that they are.
yeah. I mean, I heard people kick around Max and Miles, but I didn't. One, did not think they were for sale. Like the Panthers proved you cannot trade away every good piece you have. You have to keep something on the team. And like you said, they would have been too expensive and expensive long term.
Yeah,
Like you're looking for a placeholder for Hutchinson, and Zadarius is a great person for that. Max and Miles are going to want new contracts and they're going to want them early. So, or they'll leave for free.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
I thought this was a great move.
yeah. And then to me, the like real blockbuster trade of the day, the Commanders got
Oh yeah.
Marshawn Lattimore and a fifth round pick in exchange for a third, a fourth, and a sixth going back to the Saints. Um, this is a big trade for both teams. Obviously, I think this is a good trade for both teams if you look at it.
Yeah.
Uh, Commanders get the corner they've been desperately needing in that defense. They've struggled in pass defense all year. You're getting one of my favorite corners in the league. I think he's one of the best. Um,
Yeah.
Top five at least, probably even higher than that. Uh, you are giving up quite a bit, but with already having your quarterback set on a rookie contract, I think you have the ability to take on this contract, take on this burden, considering you're only paying 605K this year, and his next 2 years aren't guaranteed. Um, which pretty much means he's not going to be on contract after this year, unless you re-sign him, which I think they will. He's only
Yeah.
28, great corner in the league. You did give up quite a bit to get him, but I really do think this is making you better. And then on the Saints side, you need to clear cap and you need draft picks. So for them to get three decent picks, especially that third rounder, I think that's really big for them.
Yeah. I mean, I had totally spaced on this one when I said Zedarius. Um, I think this is brilliant by both teams. Like the Saints, despite their record, have a lot of talent. But their books are a fucking mess. Like their cap is a disaster. So to clear up some cap space, to get some equity in draft picks so you can go out and kind of replenish with younger, cheaper players, I think is brilliant. The Commanders, to their credit, are so young
Mm-hmm.
across the board. So they are so far from a cap problem, it's not even funny. So you can easily take this on.
Re-sign
And
him.
yeah, and because they're so young, we talked about Bobby Wagner being that veteran for the linebackers. Now you have a veteran for your corners. You highly bolster your pass defense. I think this says a lot about the Commanders. I think when you look at what the Texans did last year, I think everyone kind of thought, okay, well, that's probably the Commanders' ceiling. You're talented, but you're young. You make the playoffs, maybe you win a playoff game, and then you're done. To go out and get this kind of talent means Washington believes they can do a lot more, and they want to.
Yeah.
So it says a lot, and I'm impressed with the move. Um, New ownership and new management came in, and they're like, we are going to operate a professional football team, and it shows.
And I respect it. I really like what
Hell
they've been
yeah.
doing. I love what they've been doing over there in Washington.
Yeah.
Think they're building a great team over there. Um, Coming into our last couple trades, the Steelers made two. The first one being for Mike Williams from the Jets. They're giving up a 2025 fifth round pick to the Jets. Um, just solidifying that wide receiver room, kind of barren wide receiver room other than George Pickens. Um, just another guy in there, pretty solid vet, gonna bring a
Yeah.
lot.
I mean, it's not it's you kind of add a body. I think for Mike Williams' credit, there was no place left for you in New York.
Yeah,
You get thrown on the bus by your quarterback. They go and get another wide receiver. You become the fourth guy on the bench. It's just not worth it. Hopefully he goes somewhere he's appreciated and he wants it. And I think that would do a lot for his capability.
yeah,
And I do think, if nothing else, it helps draw
free agent.
defense away from Pickens.
Yeah, and you're
So
looking at maybe wide receiver two, minimum wide receiver three.
yeah,
Um,
like you're gonna see the ball.
yeah,
Um,
because really that offense kind of revolves around Pickens as a pass catcher. So just
yeah,
another solid pass catcher in that offense should do them good. And then the Steelers made another move, one of the last of the day, getting Preston Smith from the Packers in exchange for a seventh round pick. Um,
This kind of surprised me
yeah,
to
I
go out and get another pass rusher. Um, when that's not something the Steelers have ever struggled with.
you know
Um, even with like if TJ's hurt, they still tend to operate at a pretty high level on that regard. So I'm not I'm not here for it. I don't love it as a Ravens fan, but I was a little surprised.
yeah, I think it just makes their defense probably the defensive line especially probably the scariest
Insane.
defensive line in football
Insane.
with
No, not
Watt,
looking forward to that.
Hayward. I cannot think of their other dude right now. That's on the other side of Watt. Herbig.
Yeah,
I'm like I cannot think of his name. And then now Smith obviously can play damn near any position on that D line. So pretty solid move from them as well, especially only giving
I
up a seventh.
do think what it does it allows Watt and Hayward to rest
Yeah.
without losing the pass rush. Right now, that's what happens. Is one of them comes out and the pass rush kind of goes away. I think you maintain with one of them resting.
Yeah, I'm more consistent. I'm gonna pass it to Dallas for the last one.
Yeah. So the Baltimore Ravens, kind of a last minute trade, are acquiring cornerback Tre'Davious White from the Rams for and they're getting a 2027 seventh round pick, and they're giving up a 2026 seventh round pick. So basically for free. Doesn't even matter. This is good and interesting. They have definitely struggled at the cornerback position. I don't know that I expect them to really move off of anybody. I do think it helps bolster that room with all of the injuries they've had. With Millette, Humphrey, and God only knows what's happening with Marcus Williams. Still never got clarity on that. So, and then he didn't really play a whole ton this Sunday, so that didn't help anybody's opinion. So I do think it just kind of bolsters that room. He is a great corner. He doesn't get a lot of attention. He tends to kind of cover your number 2 or 3 wide receiver in that defense, but he is a great corner, so could be good for the Ravens. I'm more just excited that they went out and got a defensive piece. While obviously it's not quite the one I wanted, um, they made the move, and they are clearly recognizing their deficiencies and trying to make them better. And that comes with additional acquisitions they made over the past week. But we'll talk about that when we just talk the Ravens game. So I'm just EDC does a great job, and to see him go out and get someone for the defensive side of the ball is great to see.
And then I did lie. There is one more.
Oh my god.
I didn't see this one, and I went through to make sure I didn't miss any. It's
Okay.
not that important. The
Okay.
Texans trade Khalil Davis to the 49ers in exchange for a seventh round pick in 2026.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, but it was the last trade of the day.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Well, um, Niners. Fuck it. Why not?
Yeah, just
They're
get better.
so injury prone. They're just like, God, please, somebody help us.
Yeah,
That's what that is.
you know, good enough, good
All right.
enough.
Well, it was definitely an active day
Yeah,
for trades. And what I think's interesting is all of your kind of juggernauts made moves
yeah.
over the past like couple of weeks.
Hmm.
Um, even if they didn't happen today, massive trades have been made, and everybody that currently has a playoff spot went out and got somebody.
Hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of teams got better. So
So, yeah.
A lot of
I
good
mean,
teams
the
got better.
AFC really just were like, give us all the shit, and then the Lions in the NFC.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. An eventful
so I think
couple of days.
that's great. Should be an interesting second half of the season. See which of these guys makes an impact for their new team. I think there are a handful we're going to see what right away. There are
We've already
some
we've already
we
seen
may
one.
not see it all.
I will say we've kind of seen one make an impact right away. We'll see if that
Yeah.
continues, but
So should be good.
definitely
Should
interesting.
be should be good. I'm excited. Second half of the season always brings interesting. This is when playoff spots get locked up.
This is when
You
it
know,
starts to
we
matter.
yeah, this is when we start to see who teams really are, what they're going to be, and who they want to be. Not every half of them know they're not a playoff team, so it's who do you want to be next
Next
year?
year.
And so yeah, definitely an active trade year.
Yeah. You want to talk Ravens?
All right, yeah, I can get into it. We can talk Ravens versus Broncos. I know I might not sound very excited. I was extremely excited. And then I rewatched it. So I'm gonna get into all this the whole thing that happened. So the Ravens did play at home versus the Denver Broncos, and they won handedly, 41-10. Um, First watching that game, I got to watch it live actively. It was a standalone game, so I was pretty excited about that. Watching it the first time around as a fan, I was very excited. I was loving it, every minute of it. I thought everybody played really well, and this is what I wanted. And then I thought about it, and I went, you know what? I just think I need to go back and rewatch it, specifically the second half, and look at it from a more analytical point of view. So that's what I did, and that's going to kind of be how I break this down moving through the rest of this. Look, offensively, they played a great game. They moved the ball really well through the air, on the ground. Lamar had his fourth perfect passer rating game. He is now the only quarterback in NFL history to have 4 games with a perfect passer rating. Um, the O line played really well. We've still got Makari, Rosengarten, and Falale playing really well. They only had 2 offensive penalties all day, both on Makari. He's a rookie. I kind of expect that, but we cut the penalties way down, and that's kind of all I care about. The thing that I think offensively that really stood out, like Zay had a great day. Derrick Henry had a great day. I think Derek and Lamar both set new records this past week. I lost it. I don't remember. So Henry hit 1,000 rush yards. He had his 100th career touchdown. Um, he ranks first in average yards per carry, longest yard per carry, like all these categories you can rank running backs. He's currently first in all of them, which is the first time in 60 years for a running back to do. So he's playing at an elite level. Lamar is the fastest player to have 20 passing touchdowns and 500 rushing yards in a season. So the offense just playing really well. The thing though that stood out to me the most, other than the decrease in penalties, if you watch the game, the handoffs to Lamar in the beginning or no, I'm sorry, the handoffs to Henry in the beginning. He handed the ball off and he ran up the middle, and he went nowhere. And then he'd hand the ball off and run up the middle and go nowhere. Rather than abandon the run, rather than abandon Derrick Henry, Monken made a mid-game adjustment in his play calling. So instead of just handing the ball to Henry, he'd snap it. Henry'd get kind of a little running start. He'd chip pass it back to him, and then Henry would come around the edge and get his yards that way. It doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but to know the adjustment needs made and to execute it really shows the evolution as well as the football intelligence of Monken and his play calling abilities. We saw in the AFC Championship game, we've seen in others where we just give up on the run. Rather than do that, he utilized his team's skill set to open it up because once Henry came around the edge, they couldn't load the box anymore. They couldn't just rush the center. Um, so you really saw the run game kind of take off, which allowed the pass game to take off. So that to me was the most important part, was just seeing the evolution, seeing him make in-game. We didn't wait till halftime to be like, working. He saw it, he adjusted, they got it going, looked great. Um, was really happy about that. And then yeah, Zay had 2 touchdowns, Patrick Ricard had a touchdown, Henry had 2, Lamar got credit for 3 of those. Just a great game. Like I said, Deontay Johnson saw time on the field. He didn't see a ball his way. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I kind of doubt he will anytime soon. Lamar's pretty big on wanting chemistry with his pass catchers. It's really important to him. So I don't know that we'll see that anytime soon. I doubt we'll see it Thursday. But the offense is just playing really well. Lamar's playing really well. He is the clear MVP right now. I still am not convinced he's going to get it. I still think there are other factors in his way, but if he stays on this trajectory, it might be hard to deny him that. The other thing I'm really enjoying, we're just going to stick with the offense for a second, is Lamar and Henry's chemistry and their post-game camaraderie. Henry is kind of all about Lamar. Every chance he gets to praise Lamar or bolster him, he does it. The on-field reporter after the game said, "Hey, you two might have to duke it out for MVP," and Henry kind of shut that down very quickly. He was like, "God, don't do it. It's Lamar's. I don't want it." Um, and then same at the podium, he was like, "He's MV3. He makes this offense go." You're really seeing the team rally behind Lamar. Roquan even went as him for Halloween, which was pretty funny. As for the defensive side of the ball, in a lot of ways, this is what I wanted. This was the game I wanted. They posted a second half shutout. That's exciting. But also wasn't great. They didn't put up a lot of points, and they did some really good things. We saw a vast decrease in the penalties. Actually, I want to back it up for a second. I'm sorry, you guys. Going into this week, John Harbaugh hired Dean Pease, who was the defensive coordinator in Baltimore from 2012 to 2017. He was actually Zach Orr's coach while Zach Orr played in Baltimore. This is not to replace Orr. This is not to edge him out. Orr is still the play caller. He is still the defensive coordinator. It's just to add a set of eyes. Zach Orr is so young. And to go from a position coach to a defensive coordinator is a lot of work. This allows him to have somebody in the building who's done that, who's done the position that he can rely on. It's my understanding, and it's the team's understanding, that when Zach Orr needed help all year, if he had questions, if he had things he needed, Dean Pease was who he reached out to. It wasn't Mike McDonald, it was Pease. So Harbaugh made the decision, hey, I'm just going to go get that guy for you. We're going to get him in the building. Let him help. Let him be a second set of eyes. Show you the things that maybe you're overlooking or what we can do. Um, I do think we saw that impact this week. We didn't see any serious busted coverages. We did see the play calls come in faster. At no point was the defense standing around with their thumb up their ass going, "We don't know what the call is." Quarterback hikes the ball, and now we've given up massive plays. But there were still things that got away from them. I think they kind of underestimated Bo Nix's mobility and speed. There were times the pass defense looked better than it really was. Um, that was more kind of Nix's inaccuracy rather than the Ravens defense. And then there were definitely times we saw the pass rush flush Nix out of the pocket. So the secondary moved up to help. And then he was able to get the long pass off because now there's nobody covering the secondary. Um, there were definitely still some missteps, definitely still some room for improvement. But like they were doing outside of the Browns game, they came up with the biggest stops in the biggest moments. They shut them down on all but one of their fourth down attempts. They shut them down in the red zone. They they made a lot of smart decisions and they made a lot of improvements. They only had two defensive penalties, which is once again a vast improvement from what it had been. Um, so I do think it was a good game, just definitely room for improvement. And then the other thing I liked, Humphrey came out Monday and said, "Hey, I want to be abundantly clear that everyone in this building and every player in this building stands behind Zach Orr. None of these problems are on him. It's us as players not executing." What that tells me is he still has these guys' respect. That's why Harbaugh didn't move off him. That's why he's not looking to replace him. Is the players believe in Orr and what his vision is. They just all have to get on the same page. Um, I did feel like they played with kind of a renewed energy and anger, especially Kyle Hamilton. He had a great day in terms of pass breakups, balls batted, tackles for loss. Um, he was very active. Him and Roquan, you could see it just kind of demanding better than what they've done. And so that was really great to see. Um, and definitely more pressure than we've seen. Got a little bit away from him. Nix is kind of like most semi-mobile quarterbacks. The pass rush can't end up behind him. If it ends up behind him, he's going to break free. Um, so yeah, I also do not blame the DB for Nix's touchdown. That happens, and he's a big dude. That's kind of hard to stop. To that credit, I do give Bo Nix some props. He's the first quarterback since John Elway to receive a touchdown for the Denver Broncos.
Wide receiver one.
Um, yeah, he looked like it.
That was actually a really good catch.
It
I'll
was a
give him.
great catch. It was a
I'll,
great throw too. The whole situation, like I was like, "What the fuck is happening?" I'm really pissed off, and then I was like, "Okay, I respect it. I respect it."
thought it was really. I was like, that's a good catch. Fair enough.
So, and look, if you go back and watch it, Peyton left at least 13 points on the board. Um, Peyton in the offense, Knicks had a clear touchdown. He just overthrew a wide receiver at one point. Um, Sean Payton elected to go for it on 2 fourth downs rather than kick field goals. So there were points left out there. I don't think even with the Ravens defense playing the way it was, it could have been a much closer game. The unfortunate thing is Bo Nix stepped off the field to go into halftime down 17-10. And when he came back on the field, he was down 31-10. And there was not a whole ton to do about it at that point. And I do believe, as a Broncos fan, I do believe Bo Nix will be a good quarterback. I believe he is a starting quarterback in this league. He is not currently roster wise, knowledge wise, capability, any of those things at this point in his career, able to pull a team back from 21 points down. He's just not. The accuracy, the time when you're down that far and the Ravens offense is continuing to put points on the board, you have to be able to move the ball extremely effectively. And he's just not there yet. I think he could be. I think he will be. Unfortunately, they've played, I don't want to say soft, they've just played a different caliber of team up until this week. And everybody knew it going in. Sean Payton talked about it, Bo Nix talked about it. The Ravens are just a different kind of animal. Even with the defense not playing great, it's better than what they've been playing. Um, so yeah, the Ravens are just a different animal. I do still think the Broncos have a lot of potential, but this was a tough ask of, and Lamar, the Baltimore Ravens have the best record against rookie quarterbacks in the regular and postseason of any franchise in the past like 30 to 40 years. That's just kind of something they eat up for breakfast. It's what they do. It's who they are. Um, and they have a great home record. Lamar has a phenomenal home record. So I just kind of think the deck as a whole was stacked against them. And then special teams, Tucker was perfect all day, but both of his field goal kicks looked a little left. The first one did touch the upright and then kind of come back in. So hopefully we're going to get that better, but I'm still concerned. What does scare me is he has the best percentage of this year. So that scares me. As for players, offensively, it's got to go to Lamar. Your fourth game with a perfect passer rating, which no one has ever done before. Not Tom Brady, not Patrick Mahomes, not any of them. So to do that is pretty impressive. Definitely proud. Definitely think you're going to have a hard time keeping the MVP away from him. I had an interesting thought, saw an interesting thing. I'll come back to it though. Defensively, it's Hamilton. The effort he gave, the urgency he gave, clearly led this team today for Sunday. It was great to see. I thought, like I said, he played with a renewed energy and a renewed urgency, and he was very clearly the leader on that team today. So the thing, not counting this year, because obviously this year is not over. Every year he has been a full-time starter, Lamar has been the MVP. Because in 2018 he didn't play the whole season. 2020 and 2021 he was hurt, but in 19 and 24 he was the MVP. So, it's just an interesting little note.
Apparently, he can't stay healthy.
Just chill, bro.
I mean,
Just chill.
okay, one of those seasons doesn't necessarily count because the season he took over for Flacco.
That's
But
why I didn't count 20. I said 2018. He
no,
wasn't a
that's what I said.
oh,
It
yeah.
was like one of those seasons doesn't count towards the can't stay healthy because he took over for Flacco.
On that note, he has been on the injury report for the last 2 weeks. Here's the thing: I don't think he's hurt. I don't. I think the knee might be a little like that's a thing. I think it's more about resting him than anything. It's easier to explain if he's on the injury report. So he didn't practice Tuesday. It is the only full day of practice before a Thursday night game. But once again, the Ravens at home in prime time are damn near perfect with Lamar, and they're playing a team that he doesn't really lose to. So I'm not super concerned, but we'll talk more about that in my pregame preview. That's pretty much it for injury news. Adisa Isaac was added to the report. I don't care. It hasn't really mattered. He hasn't been a major factor. Humphrey comes on and off the report. So yeah, that was Ravens versus Baltimore. I saw things I wanted to
Ravens
see.
versus Baltimore. That was really good.
Ravens versus Broncos. I saw things I wanted to see. Decrease in penalties on both sides of the ball. Less busted coverage. No, we don't know the play. I saw all of that. So even though I still found problems in the defense, I saw improvement as well. And that's all I cared about.
Yeah. I did not watch the Ravens game.
Fair.
I don't know. It just wasn't on a whole ton on Red Zone.
No, it pretty much there came a point. I had to turn the game off because I was leaving work. So I just had Red Zone in my ear. And I was like, I'm assuming nothing's happening, but even if it is, I don't think Red Zone's going to tell me because with that at 31-10, they were like, we're done.
Yeah.
We don't need to show this anymore.
That was my point of like it just wasn't on a whole ton. I saw the touchdowns.
Yep.
Not much else to say there. Seemed like a pretty good win. Better than the Seahawks did.
Well, do you want to talk to us about Rams Seahawks?
No, I don't.
Okay. You want me to talk about Rams Seahawks?
No.
I saw some of it. I had some thoughts, but
I
texted you most of them.
I'll start with the good, I guess, because
Okay.
there was good.
There was good.
Yeah,
Okay.
there was definitely good. Okay, chill. This is the best the defense has played in like
That's
2
fair.
weeks.
That's
I'm gonna be honest,
fair.
this is probably the best the defense has played all year. Because it's the best offense the defense has played in a while. So we'll start there. Defense I thought played really well. As I was saying, Stafford didn't have his best game, didn't have his worst either. Wasn't good enough to win. Probably should say that Seahawks lost 20-26 in overtime. Not really surprised there. I'll get into it. But yeah, thought the defense played well. Held the Rams to 13 points in regulation, which for that Sean McVay offense is great. Love to see it. Love to see it. Got an interception. Didn't have any sacks. Part of me thinks that was just the statisticians not giving him a couple because they definitely hit. There's one that I was thinking of that I think it went down as a tackle for loss, but technically it's a sack.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it. But I thought they were getting good pressure. I thought they definitely did better against the run. Kyron Williams is one of the better backs in the league. This is the first game in like 11 that he hasn't scored a touchdown. They broke that streak. Thought that was kind of what I want to see. I want to see our run defense improve. I want to see the defense in general improve, and they definitely did. I thought the defense was the only reason they were in the game for the most part. Obviously, really shitty to lose it in overtime the way they did, but I think the defense put so much energy towards the end of that game because of what was going on that they just kind of ran out of gas at the end, and penalties started to fly, and a couple mistakes, and the Rams end up getting that long touchdown. I'm not that worried about it. Like I said, 13 points in regulation, and then the 6 given up at the end. So pretty solid there from the defense. Offensively, the only good I'll talk about is JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Had one of the best receiving games you can have as a receiver. Had 78 yards,
God
two
damn.
touchdowns, 7 catches. I mean, he was by far and away Seattle's best offensive player. Kind of what we want to see from him. 180 yards in the air, 7 catches, 2 touchdowns. This is what we want to see from him. Obviously, earlier in the game, he did have a drop that led to an interception. Don't really want to see that, but he kind of did make up for that as the game went on with 2 touchdowns, 180 yards. He should have had over 200 yards. 78 yards were called back due to holdings. We'll get into the offensive line here in a little bit, but he should have had well over 200 yards. He played a phenomenal game. I thought Kenneth Walker played okay considering the circumstances. 83 yards on the ground. Couldn't really ever get him going because this offensive line still sucks. So I thought he played well given the circumstances. Gino, I thought played really well, except for 2 moments. There's 2 moments in the game that I thought weren't his best. And there's context to them that I think needs to be looked at. So we'll get there now. So Gino on the day, 3 touchdowns, over 350 yards passing. He did throw 3 interceptions. The first one, as I said, absolutely not his fault. There's zero argument to be had. Hits JSN in the hands right here, and he proceeds to drop it, and the Rams player can catch it. I don't know how much better of a throw he could have made. It wasn't one of the normal ones you see where it's high, receiver tips it upwards behind them to a back behind him. Really, the back was like next to him. So really, that one's on JSN, not Gino. The second one, when I watched it the first time, I thought Geno Smith made a terrible decision in real time. I went back and watched the replay. I still don't love the decision he made, but I will say, if you watch it, it looks like he's either throwing the ball at the back of the end zone or JSN's breaking free on the backside of the dude that picked it off. And if he's trying to hit JSN, it's either going to be a touchdown or pass interference because it looked like the defensive back was about to just tackle him in the end zone. His arm gets hit as he throws the ball, so that's what caused it to be well short of target. So I do think that's partially on him, but his arm getting hit definitely skewed where the ball was going. So there was a chance that he was either just trying to launch it out of the back of the end zone or was trying to bait a PI call or trying to get the touchdown to JSN. Still don't love that he tried to do it with the guy in front of him, but it wasn't as bad as I originally thought. The third interception, both of these were goal to go, so within the 10-yard line. The second one like that, so the third interception total, once again, goal to go. He's planning on a timing route, so the tight end's leaking to the flat, but the tight end first is blocking a dude, and the dude grabs the tight end's jersey, preventing him from running his route. Well, Gino throws it, expecting the tight end to be at his mark, but because he was held prior to the play, the tight end was not there, and the defensive player was. So obviously, would love him to read that play happening and then not do that. But at the same time, there should have been a holding call that wasn't called on the field that prevented the player he was throwing it to from getting the ball. Kind of a shitty situation. That one I'll also put half on Gino, half on the context I just gave. So really, for the 3 interceptions, I'd only consider half and half for the last two and none of it for the last one. So it was just a really unfortunate day for him. And then obviously the 3 touchdown passes were all great throws. The third one to JSN to tie the game with less than a minute left was, an incredible throw. Not a ton of QBs make it. Between three defenders, right on the money. Looked great. Looked great. Other than those obvious three interceptions, and those last two especially. This red zone offense really needs to get their head out of their ass, because they were in the red zone 4 times by my count, and got
Yeah.
points on one drive, one, and got points. Not even just like a field goal; they got points. So not great there. Um, they had a fourth down stop in overtime, the two interceptions on the goal line, and then they did end up getting that last minute touchdown was in the red zone. So that was the only time they scored in the red zone the whole game when they had gone 4 times. So not great there. I don't hate the decision in overtime to go for it, try to win the game. Your defense had been playing lights out beforehand. You're at the 20-ish with 1 yard to go. I understand taking that risk, trying to end the game now. Unfortunately, the defense just was tired, couldn't prevent the Rams from scoring again. I don't hate the decision. Kind of liked the aggressive nature of it. Obviously, I would like them to have gotten it, but they didn't. And just kind of goes to show that the O line sucks. Had zero blocking the whole game. Geno Smith was sacked 7 times. 7. That is the most times he's been sacked this year. That is one of the most times a quarterback has been sacked all year. Was terrible. Was not good. With Geno Smith getting sacked 7 times, you wonder why he might throw an interception once in a while.
Yeah.
That's hard. Kind of have to do everything yourself. And I kind of thought that's what the second interception was until I ended up seeing more of it. I still think that kind of went into the decision making, but who knows? But yeah, this offensive line has been god awful. As I said, Geno Smith was sacked 7 times. There's something going on with the center right now that I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't
That
know.
was crazy. 2 weeks in a row, exact same play. That was crazy.
And it happened twice this week.
Oh, I missed.
That's
Oh no, you did. I didn't see it, but you texted me.
Yeah, so it happened twice, where the center snaps it over Geno's head. The first one I kind of thought was shared blame. Geno Smith went to make a check to Walker, so he turns his head to look at Walker, and then the snap comes, so it ends up hitting him like here, and he couldn't quite hold on. Still not great. Still goes behind you. Thankfully, they have not lost one of those yet. They've yet to fumble it away. Still not good. Still not good. And it happened again later in the game. I don't remember when they happened again, but I know the first one was in the first half, and I believe the second one was in the second. So I don't know what it is. 3 times in 2 games, they've snapped the ball over Geno's head. That's a problem. That is a problem. It is ruining drives. Ruined the drives against Bills. Didn't even ruin the drive against the 2 drives against the Rams. In a game that you lost by 6 in overtime, the mistakes add up, and that's what happened. They made mistakes. You have the 3 interceptions, the two snaps over his head, holdings on big plays. Like the amount of big plays Seattle had taken back because of a penalty on the offensive line was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Silly mistakes on defense at times with penalties, especially in overtime. I understand you're tired, but you can't make these mistakes. And that's what that was. They deserve to lose by the amount of mistakes they made. They also missed an extra point early in the game. First extra point attempt gets blocked. Doesn't even get blocked. Or the player that blocked it doesn't get blocked, is what I was going for. Shows you the offensive line sucks still. Most of the offensive line is on field goal protection. They didn't protect the field goal. The dude ran right through you and got a hand on the block.
Yeah.
What are we doing? That ended up being kind of a deciding factor in the game. Had they made that extra point, it technically would have been 21-20. Obviously, you can't go off that. That happened in the first touchdown Seattle scored. But it does force the Rams to try to go for two if you get it. At some point, the Rams would have had to go for two to
Yeah.
try to tie the game. So obviously, just terrible mistakes were made. Not a good game. That kind of ends Seattle's season. Um, they do have a pretty tough schedule ahead. Obviously, they're on their bye week this week, um, which will be nice. We'll get players back before we head to the 49ers. But you're 4-5, and you've had some really bad losses. And I'll chalk
Yeah.
this one up as a bad loss. I think you should have won this game. Like the way the defense played, the way Gino was playing early on, I thought they deserved to win it until all the mistakes started piling up. Um, so deserved loss, bad loss too. So kind of have to move on. I kind of think that spills the end of the Seahawks season. I don't see them really making the playoffs. I'm kind of hoping they just kind of take it as it is. I think McDonald's proven they can still be a good head coach in the league. So let's just get the offensive line fixed next year, and let's keep going. Um, Injury news: DK Metcalf was out for this game. We kind of saw that with the amount of targets JSN had, and how much the offense kind of struggled near the red zone. I think that's been part of their red zone problems. Is DK does bring a lot to that red zone offense. Noah Fant was also out for this game. That also doesn't help the situation. Your main tight end, your kind of do it all guy, kind of need him in the lineup. And then George Fant, who had came off IR for this game, has left the game with a knee injury. So, you know,
Yeah.
offensive line ends up just getting worse because the guy you thought was going to be your like standard backup started the game, gets hurt again after coming off IR. Not great. It's just something they have to live with. Thankfully, they are probably going to get Abe Lucas, the starting right tackle, back after the bye week. Same with Metcalf, same with Fant. So they should be healthier coming out of the bye week. We could only hope. But so maybe the San Francisco 49ers might be. We'll kind of wait and see. We'll cover that in the preview 2 weeks down the road. Um, but yeah, it just wasn't a great game. Obviously, need some more consistency from the offense. I thought it was weird that the offense scored all of its points in the last 2 minutes of each half. That was the only time the offense scored. So if you could play the whole game like it's the last 2 minutes, we'll be solid. Solid.
Yeah.
But yeah, so unfortunate loss, but gotta have to move on, get to the bye week, see where it goes from here.
Hopefully it helps you get some guys back. Um, Gino is a great like 2-minute drill quarterback. That's always been kind of one of his strong suits. But you and I were talking during the game, obviously. I didn't see a ton of it outside of what came up in red zone. And then, a full disclosure, took a nap during that. I was pretty tired. Um, but with all of the mistakes, for them to keep it as close as they did and force an overtime, as shitty as the loss was, I thought was pretty impressive. I think it does show improvement on your defense.
Yeah.
Um, obviously the Rams aren't what they want to be right now, but like you said, I think it was one of your best defensive games of the year.
And then I
So,
kind of forgot to do offensive player of the game.
oh, yeah,
Jackson Smith and Jigba, kind of
has to be.
obvious. you know.
Has to be.
And then defensive, I'm going to give to Ernest Jones, the recent trade acquisition. I thought he played really well on stopping the run. Kind of was the main dude at that right now. I thought he played a really good game. Defense as a whole, I thought played well until overtime, but I think he kind of deserves it for how well the run defense ended up holding up.
Defense is like overtime's rough. Like, that's a lot of football. And
And
those big guys, they're not built for
especially
that.
especially when the Rams get the momentum coming off the
Yeah,
fourth down stop.
yeah. Like that's a hard ask.
You're tired, and your team just kind of lets you down in a way,
Yeah.
but is what it is.
So yeah, hopefully better off the bye. Get some guys back.
Could only hope.
At least get to 500.
Hey, I'll take it. I'll take 8 and 9. I kind of said that earlier in the season.
Yeah, with a new head coach.
I'll live.
Do you wish that Schneider had done something for the trade deadline?
I was pretty happy with what we had done already, getting the defensive lineman Roy Robertson Harris earlier, and then Ernest Jones a little prior. Part of me kind of wished we did upgrade at offensive line, but I also understand the approach of whatever you do now is probably just going to be a rental. That's not going to fix the issue going forward. And I do think they should probably start building more for the future of the team. So I wasn't too upset. Part of me is like I would have liked to seen maybe an upgrade at the guard position, but at the end of the day, I'm not too upset
Gotcha.
by the
Do
lack
you
of
think?
moves.
I realize I had a thought that I wanted to share, but I'll come back to it. Not saying they should, just straight up an opinion. Do you think they make a change at quarterback to see what they have?
Probably not. No. Um, right now, because they're still within playoff reach. I think they rock with Gino. I think McDonald has come out and said Gino is our guy,
Yeah.
uh, and will be our guy. I have no reason to doubt that, considering that yeah, he's part of the reasons you're in games right now, regardless of the interception stats. Um, you know, if we were basing the league off of interceptions, Patrick Mahomes would not start in the league right now.
Oh,
Um,
that's fair. That's fair.
so because he had more interceptions than touchdowns prior to the Bucks game, and then I did not watch that game, so I don't know if he ended up throwing more interceptions.
I don't believe so.
So like prior to that though, he had like an 8-9 ratio.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I wasn't worried about it.
No, and I'm not, again, I don't know that they should. I don't think Gino's playing at a level that would warrant a benching, but more just like a
I
what
think
do we have here kind of thing.
I think they I think part of the reason they're not is because of how atrocious this offensive line is.
So,
You already have a quarterback that was broken by a shitty offensive line last year. I kind of think you don't want to repeat that scenario.
uh my final thought on the Seahawks game was I saw Gino had a press conference. I don't know what day, but had kind of made the comment that like he's a sore loser, which is fine. He's a professional athlete. I kind of expect that. But maybe he needs to be a little bit more composed on the sideline. And so I went back and I kind of watched just his presence on the sideline. The one thing I really noted was the difference, not necessarily of him, but the absence of Locke. You and I have talked in the past about Locke just being
there.
a really like uplifting guy. That no matter how badly it's going, Locke is someone you can turn to who will watch film with you, who will kind of build you up, talk you up, get you and a whole sideline fired up for a game. And if you have any interest in a Giants game, it's a travesty. Don't watch it.
Yeah,
But watch the sideline. Locke is a presence. He's very well liked. And that's a big part of why. And watching the Rams game, that was kind of the thing I took extreme notice of. It's not really Gino, how he's playing or how he's, but it's just the absence of Locke's presence, I think is kind of being felt this year.
it is weird that you're bringing this, like, because I haven't noticed. I don't
I,
normally notice backup quarterbacks. That's not really a thing.
no, and that's fair.
But yeah, I feel like I'm not saying Sam Howell's doing anything wrong.
No, not at all.
Um,
But it's
it,
a different energy.
yeah, I do know at one point Gino did spike a couple of the tablets
Yeah,
into the ground, so I understand maybe somebody going like, I'm just gonna,
let's chill out.
I'm just gonna be over here if you need me. I don't need a
And
tablet
yeah,
thrown at me.
I don't think that like I'm not saying it in a way as like a knock to Gino.
That is weird. That was so
But like
weird.
I think that's the one thing because we didn't really see that with Locke and Bridgewater because Bridgewater had his own. But we kind of talked about it last year. Just you could see the camaraderie between Locke and Gino,
Yeah.
and I think we're seeing the absence of it in Gino's sideline behavior, I guess is the word, but I don't like it. Again, I don't think he's doing anything wrong. Spike a tablet, I don't fucking care. I don't pay for it. You're upset, you're frustrated.
Yeah. You just threw two
Um,
really bad interceptions.
but like, I think there's a notable difference.
No, yeah, that's fair. I didn't even realize that, I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I also think I didn't really want to talk about this, um,
Okay.
because it is kind of weird. I also think part of that is the difference between McDonald and Carroll. Um,
Okay.
Carroll was all energy.
Positivity.
McDonald is, I don't want to say Belichick, but like I've seen him smile on the sideline like twice.
So
He gets more excited
we,
than Belichick at times. I'll give
yeah,
him that.
we don't like coaching trees.
Yeah,
Um, John Harbaugh was up 41-10
and look pissed off.
and looked like someone shot his dog.
So onto this, it's kind of interesting that McDonald went with John rather than Jim in that,
Yeah.
because he worked under both.
And Jim is a very excited guy.
Yeah,
Like very energetic.
yeah.
Um yeah, John was up 41-10 and looked like somebody shot his dog. Like
The,
if you had just watched his face on the sideline, you'd be like, "Oh, they're losing. This is not going well." And I think McDonald veered that way rather than Jim's style, which is hyped up, excited,
yeah.
energetic.
Um, and obviously, I do think there is benefits to both ways. Um,
Yeah,
but I do think that also plays a factor into the sideline situation of McDonald's very composed, doesn't show, like, he obviously does get excited at times. There was a couple where you'll see him definitely get excited. Um, I will say he also does get in the ref's ear a lot, which I
yeah,
do like out of a coach. I do think as a coach you need to be willing
that.
to go to bat for your guys.
Hmm.
There were times I thought other coaches in the league wouldn't. Um, but yeah, I do think like that difference also does play into like the sideline of
I
like,
just think I think there has to be somebody. whether it's a coach
I know who
or
the
a
somebody
player.
is. I know who the somebody is. On the defensive side, at least. I know who it is.
Okay,
I don't know if we have one on the offensive side.
I think
That's
he could use one.
that's possible. Yeah, that's definitely I'm not
Like,
disagreeing
I
there.
get it. Like, don't get me wrong. Every quarterback, there's not a single quarterback that doesn't get pissed off and frustrated.
But having a lock on your side,
But having someone to kind of
um,
build you up, I think is positive. Like, I think if it were just Lamar and Mark on the sideline, that would not be great. I don't think that would be positive for the Ravens.
because I'm like, maybe it's Lockett. Maybe Lockett's that guy now. But Lockett's also older and doesn't ever get too high or too low. So I don't know if it's
Yeah,
actually him, but he does bring that like reassuring
kind of
voice.
energy.
Um, because it's not DK. Um,
No, God, no. God,
love him to death, but he
no.
will.
He's negative Nancy.
But I
He's just part of that, like, he's
and
that.
God, this offense needs him, but he's definitely the I'm gonna spike a tablet
Yeah,
or I'm
yeah.
gonna punch someone in the face. So
It's really interesting. Zay, I think, is my
Energizer Bunny.
yeah, and that's about the size of him. Um, you know, Lamar will spike a helmet. He does not spike tablets, but that's pretty much because I don't think I've ever seen him hold a tablet. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't think I've ever
He probably
seen that.
does, but like
He really doesn't. It has
he has
come up
someone
in
else.
nope. It has come up in multiple interviews. He does not look at plays when he comes off the field. Um,
That's a weird one.
Both coaches, every coordinator he tell has will tell you he has an eidetic memory when it comes to football. So when he comes off the field, he can tell you exactly the play and what happened and where everybody was on both sides of the ball. So he doesn't look at his tablet. He's like, I know what happened. I know where the play fucked up. And that's kind of it.
I didn't know that actually.
So,
That is
yeah,
interesting.
both Greg Roman and Monken said it. Harbaugh has said it. Because someone asked once, they're like, why don't you give him? He was like, what does he need one for? The moment he comes off, he can tell you where every player for both teams was and exactly what happened. He doesn't need to see it again.
Hmm.
So, um, yeah,
Okay.
but he'll spike a helmet.
Oh, I've seen it. I've
Did
seen it a
yeah?
couple times.
He'll punt the football. He's like, fuck it. If he's pissed. He's pissed. But and Henry is kind of like Harbaugh. Like Henry looks perpetually pissed off. Mark is perpetually pissed off. So I think it's Zach. I think he's a little Energizer Bunny.
Yeah. The Energizer Bunny for the Seahawks on defense is definitely Witherspoon. Beyond that, offensively, I just can't think of one. There might be a guy that is just there,
Yeah.
but like I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. It's a really interesting point you brought up though with Drew
Yeah,
Lock.
I it's a notable change. It's a notable change.
I think it just
I
across
don't
the
think
board.
it's gonna make or break your season. I don't think it's just something I took note of as a unbiased observation.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. Games of the week.
Yeah. Um Bengals versus Raiders. Bengals won 41-24. What I would like to say is the Chiefs and the Bengals did not have to play the Raiders with Devontae Adams. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say on the note. Anyway, um, it looked pretty much exactly like the Chiefs Raiders games. Um, it started off really competitive. Both teams kind of struggled to move the ball. Both teams got some points on the board, but was competitive. And then the second half happened, and the Bengals just ran the fuck away with it. The Raiders couldn't stop anything. They couldn't move the ball. It was a travesty. As a response, though, Antonio Pierce fired his offensive coordinator yesterday
Yeah.
and hired a former head coach to come in and be a consultant. This tells me two things. It tells me, one, Antonio Pierce does not want to lose his job. And it tells me that he can identify problems. I have always said head coaches are more likely to keep their job when they can recognize the shortcomings in their staff. Yes, the offensive coordinator may be a problem. However, you have no quarterback.
Yeah.
You traded away your best wide receiver.
Yeah.
Your O line is shaky at best. So to put 24 points on the board, actually, I think was pretty impressive.
The
Um,
Bengals defense sucks.
yeah, Bengals team is a travesty. Honestly, travesty.
The offense is still kind of good at times.
The offense has its moments. My thing with the Bengals offense, it's just like, and here's the problem. Here's the problem. I have opinions on the Bills offense and the Bengals offense, and I'm pretty confident that I'm right. There's just currently no evidence to prove that I'm right. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I think it's there,
There's something
but
different about both offenses. For the Bills, I think it's a good thing in a way. Um, Obviously, Allen isn't having the explosiveness he's had in the past, but he's also not turning the ball over.
no, absolutely agree.
So I'm like,
Absolutely agree.
but it is different.
Um, Bengals, it's flat. I know 41 points, that sounds weird. Here's the thing. You know what? Here's what it comes down to. The Bengals offense is never the flashiest thing. Like Burrow is never in MVP conversation for a reason. But they win. Like that's the number one thing they do well is win. When you take that away and you just kind of have this lackluster offense that revolves around Jamar Chase, it just feels off.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely think they needed to upgrade at running back. The Zach Moss injury, I do think, is a blow to the team. So we'll see. You know, they are technically like their season's not over. Um, they do play the Ravens on Thursday night. I think that's a loss for the Bengals, in case we weren't sure. Um,
Wow, you have
I
the
have reasons for
Ravens
that. Like
losing? Wow. Shit.
I have stats for that. I have reasons. But yeah, I just think it just feels flat. It just seems like no, like they're put 5 touchdowns is impressive. I'm not trying to take away from that. It just feels flat. It feels like there's something off with this team. Obviously, the defense is terrible. I mean, it's terrible. And the Raiders are amazingly enough just the Raiders. It's just start strong but can't finish. And I will say I'm impressed with 24 points without Adams, but you feel his absence late in games.
Oh,
So I didn't see anything from either of these teams that we haven't seen all year. The Bengals put up points. Defense couldn't stop much. The Raiders looked like the Raiders. It was, despite high scoring, very boring.
yeah. Can agree with
So
that, actually.
it
'Cause that,
just
that was another game that I feel like just wasn't on a whole ton.
no. At one point, I forgot that I was supposed to be paying attention to it. I had to go back and watch the condensed replay. So I was like, I don't know what's happening. At one point, I thought the game was over. There's still 5 minutes left. I was like, oh. So yeah, it was just one of those. I don't think the Bengals are right now, and I think the Raiders need a quarterback.
Um,
And
we'll
I
see
would
how
say
that.
at least another offensive weapon. I
Yeah,
think
they
Bowers
need
is playing really well, but
their one. I'm really glad they didn't do anything in the trade deadline. Um, because I don't think they had anything to trade worth anything other than Crosby, and I don't think you trade him.
and
I
I
think
don't think with the state of that team, they don't want to be giving up picks.
no, I didn't. I wasn't saying. I was saying trying to accumulate picks.
Oh, gotcha.
I think they're a
Yeah,
team
the
that should sell.
I
But you
think the
can't.
only piece you have though is Crosby.
And he's a piece you want to build around. He's the
No,
guy. Like,
you don't want you don't want that. And their owner made it very clear that he was not for sale.
so yeah,
Like, don't even call.
it will be interesting to see the draft. I'm really looking forward to the draft this year. I look
Yeah,
forward to the draft every year. But
I
something
just feel
about
like this year's like there's so many moving pieces
so
with like Sam Darnold out there.
I think what makes this year different from last year is you had the like run of you had six quarterbacks in the first round,
Yeah,
so you knew QB needy teams was going to draft one. This year, one, the QB needy teams aren't picking high. Two, there isn't a ton of like high
the
end.
QB market's pretty low.
Yeah, so I do think it's
So,
an interesting draft of like this is also the first draft that I've truly like paid attention to every team, paying more attention to college football,
yeah,
the whole.
we are significantly more dialed in this year.
Yeah,
Significantly.
yeah,
So,
it's been
yeah, it'll be interesting. We've talked about doing a live reaction. We talked about doing a pre-draft thing for the first round. Talked about a couple things. It's going to be interesting. I'm really just to see all of these teams and how they're moving forward has been, you think about the teams that are firing coaches versus the teams that need quarterbacks, or
yeah.
the teams that just paid quarterbacks and where they're at. Like,
Teams that
it's a very interesting market right
have a
now.
really high pick but don't need a
But
quarterback.
yeah, so do you sell? Do you go get something else? Like,
Do you?
who do you sell to without a high quarterback draft class or
Yeah,
a bolsterous? Like,
where you have
so it's
six. Where arguably last year you could like the top three were all talked about as possibly being number one.
yeah,
This year it's you have like four guys in my opinion that are all like first round, late second,
ish.
possibly yeah, first round guys. But none of them have really been like locks for the top.
Yeah,
Obviously teams will draft them there because teams overdraft quarterbacks. It's just a fact. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying like
they do it.
yeah,
That's
like most
so yeah,
quarterbacks. Bo Nix went 12th overall. Bo Nix is not the like 12th best player in college football last year,
no.
but like teams need quarterbacks. That's what happens.
So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting year. Off
Yeah,
season, all of it. Well, on to teams playing really well this year. Do
yeah,
you want to talk to us about Green Bay and Detroit? Because that
yeah.
was your game of the week.
So Detroit goes to Lambeau, beats the Packers 24-14. Um, I'm not gonna talk about a ton of this game because it was kind of boring in a way. Just kind of felt like
It was
the
a dink and dunk game in the
yeah, and
rain.
and the Lions just never felt like the Lions were in trouble.
Yeah,
Um, so I'm gonna start with the Packers. I think right now Jordan Love's being hurt is only damaging that team currently. We've seen his lack of mobility. We've seen some issues with that. Obviously, the pick six he threw was because of that.
hmm
We've seen some other issues earlier. Leads the league interceptions. I'm not advocating to sit him, but I do think you need to take his injury into account. And I do think there's a possibility that you kind of see as the season goes on.
I thought they should have sat him in this game. I get it was Detroit, um, but Malik has played well. He did win both the
Yeah,
games he started. Just a good ground and pound game. And then they have the bye this week.
yeah,
You let Love genuinely rest.
it was definitely
I thought that's what they would do, and they didn't.
yeah. So yeah, I think that's just the Love has the injury, and it's kind of being a problem. It's causing issues. But also all the credit to Detroit. I think they are the best team in football, but I'm gonna be more specific of like they're just the most consistent team in football.
Yeah.
Um, you haven't seen them get too high, too low. They've just been trotting along. Jared Goff remains to be the most efficient quarterback. He's not doing a lot, but by God, he's not turning the ball over. He's just
I mean, he has more touchdown passes than incompletions. That's insane.
over the past like couple of weeks. 82% completion rate to this week. Had one touchdown. Um, it has been. They're leaning on their run game, and Goff is completing the passes he needs to complete. It is a complete offense right now. They're dialed in. And then defensively, I think they're playing great football defensively, even without Hutchinson, which I kind of thought was. I thought that defense was really going to take a huge step back.
Yeah.
I don't think they've taken a huge step back. I don't think they've taken a step forward either. But I think they've continued to just play consistent, hard defense. It'll be really interesting to see, obviously, towards the end of the year with teams already firing head coaches. You know, how long is this coaching staff going to be together? You know, the Ben Johnson's already had interviews. Aaron Glenn's looking like he could be a real candidate. Obviously, I don't think Dan Campbell's ever going anywhere. But like,
No.
how long are these assistants going to be around? I have questions about that with a lot of teams. Baltimore, I have questions about Munkin. Is Munkin a possibility for head coaching? Especially with the more teams that get fired or more head coaches that get fired. But yeah, Detroit's in the best position they've been in to go and get it. That being the Super Bowl. I think they're easily my pick for the NFC right now. Obviously, best team in the NFC, in my opinion, despite having one loss on their record. I think they've just been more consistently good rather
Yeah.
than the Chiefs, who I think are just kind of winning games by the skin of their teeth most weeks. Obviously, they're 8
This
0.
last week was a bummer. It's
I
a
have a
bummer.
take on that.
I want to
We
hear.
can get
We'll
to it.
hear it. We'll talk about it.
Um, but yeah, I do. I just think that Detroit's been the most complete team this year.
We talked about game manager being a quality if it's done well. Goff is like the perfect game manager right now.
He is like he's just
He's
been.
not doing anything crazy. It's not super deep passes. There's nothing flashy about it. But he is just keeping that offense moving.
It's just a
This city, this team is just rallied behind him. Like, okay, we talk a lot about culture, especially when it comes to Dan Campbell. That's like his main thing. I don't think that for the culture get Dan built in the beginning, there was a better quarterback than the guy that could arguably say, I just took a team to the Super Bowl and then was disrespectfully told I'm not good enough. So I'm all about being on a fuck you team.
yeah.
And I think he was just the perfect quarterback for this team. And to see it's not flashy, but he's playing phenomenally. It's probably Kevin O'Connell's or Dan Quinn's or I doubt Stefanski at this point.
There's some guys out there.
But I think Campbell is owed a coach of the year. I really do.
I think depending on this year, he might. Obviously,
Like,
I would say my two front runners currently are Campbell and O'Connell. Um, I think
and
they've
I
just
think
been. Dan
unfortunately
Quinn's also up
Campbell
there.
it's like hasn't had the adversity.
You
Being
rebuilt
a
the
head
Lions,
coach of the Lions is no longer not anymore.
but he's responsible for the rebuild.
I know, which is why I think it's owed to him.
Yeah, but
Like
I don't know.
when you think about like all the shit he got, like and all the doubt he got, and to
Yeah,
be who he is now, it's incredible. And to see what
yeah.
this team is doing, seriously, I need the Ravens to win a Super Bowl. If it's not them, I want the Lions. I don't think I'm rooting for a team harder
I
outside of my
really,
own.
I'm gonna be honest. If Seattle, because I'm already accepting Seattle's not doing anything this year. Um, I think the Super Bowl I want to watch is Lions Ravens. I
Yeah,
think that's just an ideal one for me. I can accept Lamar getting his first Super Bowl, and then obviously the Lions, man, that fan base, that
yeah.
city.
I mean, I don't know that anybody else like they're like, come on, just give us one.
Just
So
please.
yeah, I that would be my dream Super Bowl. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't know that I'd be mad at any outcome. As long as Lamar played well, I don't want to fucking hear any more about he doesn't play well in the playoffs. Like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Um, that would be my ideal. But yeah, I think as a whole, Detroit just is like the most complete team. They, like, I have yet
Yeah.
to see even their loss to um, Tampa Bay. I thought they played really well. Um,
And they were in that game. They played it hard.
and
I
Tampa
I
Bay
kind of want to
also just took the Chiefs to overtime and only
yeah.
lost because of.
Here's the thing. I feel like Baker and Tampa are wildly underrated right now. He
Yeah,
is doing this without Evans and Godwin.
yeah,
And when they both went down in the Ravens game, all the media talked about was, well, this team's gone to shit. And they're losing, don't get me wrong, they're recording losses. But they are in these games and they are fighting for it. And you took the Chiefs to overtime. And the only reason, like, it's low key not but rigged. You
yeah.
give Patrick Mahomes the ball and go one drive wins the game. That's it. That's
Yeah,
Baker's face said it. He was like, "Well, that's that."
yeah. He saw the coin flip and just went,
Like that's what Patrick Mahomes does. It's annoying. I get it, y'all. I get it. I hate it too. That's what he does.
that's what makes him great.
Who he is. So I just think I think I get they've lost the last couple. I just think we're underrating them. What he's doing without both of those guys has been impressive.
Yeah. Um, but yeah. Um, I do have a take since we'll just get there now.
Okay.
The NFL just needs to change their overtime rules. Um,
To be
obviously,
like the playoff rules
either be the
all year.
playoff. I would also accept you chose like college football overtime. If you just made that the regular season rules, it's
Like
more
you just play an extra
convoluted.
quarter.
So no, college overtime is really weird. Um, both teams get the ball. First team coin flip. You decide offense, defense, and then whoever's on offense starts from I believe the 35 closest to the end zone.
Okay.
So you only need 35 yards for the touchdown. If you get the touchdown, the other team gets to respond with the touchdown. If the other team responds with the touchdown, stays tied, we go to second overtime. Second overtime, the team that was on offense last is still on offense. So now that team gets a chance to score a touchdown. If they score, they have to go for two, is required.
Okay.
If they go for two and get it, the next team that was playing defense gets to go on offense. If they score a touchdown, they have to go for two. If they get it, the game continues. It's still tied. After that point, in third overtime, they just go 2-point conversions until someone fucks up.
Huh. I think I would just perform or prefer like a fifth quarter. Or just like play the 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Whoever wins, it's over.
Yeah.
Or at least both offenses get a shot. Like I
That's
get that's
the
the playoff rules,
that's the easiest way. I do think
but
college football playoffs is really fun because it's very, once you get to a certain point, it's very like intense. If you make it to triple overtime and it comes down to like one
yeah.
play,
The only concern I suppose I have, defensive players in the NFL are just a little different. And I think there comes a point when the defense is like, we're just gonna lay here and die. So you let us know if if we
I'm not
should be doing something.
I'm not saying that's not true. I'm just saying like
Like,
I honestly
no,
don't even think the NFL should do that. I think it's a solution. I honestly think they should just both team gets the ball. Whoever wins wins.
yeah,
You play 10 minutes, both teams get a chance.
like
Whoever
I if okay, take Chiefs Bucks. Chiefs go, they score, cool. Bucks get the ball, they don't score, fine, game over. But like I just think both teams should get a shot.
and it still works where the team that wins coin toss still gets the advantage.
Yeah,
I
because
would
then you force them, they have to respond with a touchdown.
and you can burn as much time off the clock as you
Yeah,
want. You could leave
and
them 0 seconds in theory.
like
Like
and you could go for 2 point but
they're
like they didn't even have to kick the extra point.
yeah, they
Like
just
they were
won.
like, oh, we got the touchdown, it's we win, and I'm like, fuck you, no.
It's the same reason Seattle went for it on fourth down. There was
Yeah,
no point in kicking that field goal.
like so I just do.
You
I
kick
just
the field goal if it's your only option.
and if you know your defense can get that stop.
Yeah.
Like if you're like overtime was a fluke, we have y'all's number. Fine. But for the most part, the teams that go for a field goal got the ball second.
Yeah.
So I just do. I just think both teams should get a shot in regular season as well.
Yeah. No,
Like
100% agree.
can still end in a tie, can still whatever, but come on.
I also don't think it should end in a tie, but that's my.
No, I agree with that too. I do. But
That's like the one thing that I like about college football is it can't end in a
let's
tie
fix
this way.
one problem at a time.
I feel like if you
One rule
change
at a
this
time.
rule, in theory, it should end in a tie. Um,
That's fair.
unless you take all 10 minutes and it ends in a tie, but at that point, you go to like that college overtime thing where you just 2-point conversions.
Yeah.
Go.
So yeah, I at least at minimum both teams should get a shot.
Yeah.
All right. I don't have any fancy phrasing or fun things that I thought of today. So just what stood out to you this week? What are you thinking about football as of week 9 in the NFL?
Um, I definitely think the best teams have shown themselves already. Obviously, you have the Chiefs, Ravens, Lions, um, those teams. Um, I also think like the middle of the pack has some interesting things that will happen. Um, I think there's a lot of teams that are in that like 4-4, 4-5 range, or like 5-4, that are all kind of right there.
Yeah.
that I think there'll come playoff time, I think we'll see a lot of movement. I think that's my main takeaway is this season seems to have like a lot of teams that are all like there still. You obviously have your couple that are like guaranteed at this point, and you obviously have your like ones that are like just
Like,
have
statistically,
fun.
technically not, but you're probably out of it.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot more teams just in that middle, um, and I'm kind of intrigued on if it stays that way or if we now that we've reached statistically the midway point of the season, if you start to see teams fall off or teams like rise.
Yeah.
I think that's really my takeaway is like with the halfway point, there's a lot of movement that can still happen.
I think, we talked about this last week. It's for so long been the top of the pack and then a massive drop off and everybody else. And this year there seems to be more of like
A tier,
yeah, like like these teams are good, these teams are good. Like it steadily moves down. It's not just like you have the juggernauts and then the shit show.
yeah,
Like yes, you have your kind of couple powerhouses still, but it's all a little bit more even,
congested.
for lack of a better word.
I would say congested in that middle
Like
where everything
you have
clusters.
more teams in the middle
Yeah,
that have room to go either way.
yeah.
So I would definitely agree with that point. Any, I don't know. I don't know.
Just want to move on
I'm
to
just
next week.
no. Because I
Okay,
had two things I wanted to talk about.
then just go for it. I don't know.
I know. I'm trying to think of a. It's not happening. No, I can't think of anything to say. So the two that I kind of wanted to talk about, potentially three. We'll see what happens. Cowboys, Falcons. We've talked about the Cowboys. Unfortunately, a lot of people have talked about the Cowboys. I'm pretty over it. I did want to share my hot take. Um, I kind of thought Monday Mike McCarthy should have quit. Just so we're clear, pretty confident no head coach has ever done that in the middle of a season.
Coaches have resigned. I don't think they've ever like.
No, like they've like resigned, but pretty much at the like they always do it at the end of the year.
Yeah,
Um, here's my thing. I I do not blame Mike McCarthy for the current struggles. I do think he has had coaching shortcomings. I'm not disagreeing with that point. But in the course of a year, you are on a lame duck contract. Your owner slash GM made no moves in the offseason, draft, or trade to bolster your team, has publicly called out your play calling, called out your coaching style, your ability to lead a team, and leaves you to answer those questions. So you have been disrespected, undermined, and wildly unappreciated. And that was capped off this week with you chucking a tablet, which is the first head coach I've seen do that. I've seen an OC do it. It was pretty funny, but it's the first head coach I've seen genuinely spike a fucking tablet. After the quarterback is on camera saying, "We fucking suck." I would have taken whatever dignity you have left and told Jerry Jones to eat shit. Because while I think everyone recognizes that Jerry Jones is the problem this year, this is tainting you. This is fucking with your legacy and how you are viewed as a head coach. So why tolerate it? Like, I don't think that there's not a job out there for you. Maybe not this year. I don't think any owner or GM would genuinely hold it against you if you went, yeah, 3.5 years. I'm pretty fucking over his bullshit. I'm done. I'm done. You broke me. Congratulations. You fucking broke me. Good luck.
Um,
Because clearly you think you can do everything for this team better.
I
Wouldn't have
definitely,
happened, but I was like, hot take, I think it should. And then Dak got hurt.
oh, yeah, that's,
And now it's easy to be like, well, Dak's hurt. What'd you want us to do? You know what I mean?
um,
Like,
Jerry Jones continues to be the worst GM in football. Best
it's a
owner,
travesty. Yeah.
one of the
Oh,
best
by
owners,
far and away.
but worst GM. And we talked about this last week. Man, just hire somebody. Just do like do anything that doesn't make you the GM of the Dallas Cowboys. Cause you
It's just
suck at it.
terrible.
You just suck at it.
And I do. I just, as Mike McCarthy, I'd be like, I'm done. I'm done being kicked around by you.
Yeah. I
And it just came to a head this week, and it was a hot take. I was like, I think he should do it. He spiked that tablet, and I was like, oh god, just just say fuck it, bro. And then Dak got hurt, and I went, well, there goes that.
yeah.
But that was kind of the trajectory I saw. Um,
It's definitely an
yeah,
interesting one. Definitely
that was my take.
definitely hot.
I
Definitely
I know it.
a little warm.
Little like loco.
I don't hate it.
Um,
I definitely think that wasn't going to happen regardless of the situation. But I don't necessarily disagree with it. As Jerry Jones really just needs to hire a GM. Is really where we're
yeah,
at. He won't,
no.
but that is where we're at.
And I mean, he's not going to offer you a new contract, but as Mike McCarthy, if he tried to, I'd be like, yeah, fuck, bro.
Yeah.
I'm so far out on this, it's not even funny.
Like, I'm willing to throw my career away so that I don't have to keep playing for you.
Yeah.
So.
And that would just tell you how bad it is.
Yeah.
Next, I did wanna, if you saw it, if you didn't see it, Saquon Barkley had the play of the universe. Really?
Just I
it it's the most beautiful thing. Like, if you like football at all, you have to watch this play.
I remember watching it and sitting there going, he
Straight up juked the guy, stopped on a dime,
spun another.
had Winnie spun around, caught the defender out of the corner of his eye, jumped, and hurdled the dude backwards.
Yeah.
And then gained
Another
2
like,
more yards.
yeah, I thought Kenneth Walker's play where he like somersaulted over the dude, like
Uh-huh.
wrestling style, was impressive. Um, I kind of think that one was more impressive. Um, how you decide to fuck it, jump up backwards.
And like it's not even like guys hurdle each other,
Yeah,
but you can see them. You know how high to jump, where roughly you want your legs to be. The corner of his eye calculated a distance, a width of legs, and went, fuck it. And then landed on his feet
yeah. I that's
after the juke. I
it.
was like,
It was honestly,
this is the epitome of football. Like, as a head coach, I'd be like, awesome. Don't ever do that again. Thanks. But that move will be in highlight reels for the next 100 years.
yeah. It was definitely one of
It
the
was
more
crazy.
out there moves I've ever seen a player do.
And I think the more he does it, the more likely Joe Shane gets fired.
Oh yeah. Um.
Because, like,
Yeah.
and I think I think if you're having a running problem this year, watching
Saquon do what
what
he's doing.
Saquon, Henry, and Mixon are doing, you should be embarrassed
Yeah. No, it's
that you let those guys go to teams actively in the playoffs.
yeah.
Like, you done fucked that one up.
I'm really frustrated by Saquon Barkley this week. I had to play him in
Okay.
fantasy, and he single-handedly pretty much beat me in fantasy this week. Um, you know, so it
He
wasn't.
did really well for me, man.
Yeah. He pretty much single-handedly beat me in my money league, so I wasn't too thrilled by
Shitty.
that. Um, and then I almost lost in another league because I had JSN sitting on my bench. So that was
I
37 fantasy points that weren't in play.
That's super shitty.
Yeah, that one
I
was definitely.
I had the running back lottery this week.
Yeah, because
I
didn't.
had Henry, Saquon, and J.K. Dobbins all starting,
Oh,
and they all had 2 touchdowns and a fuck ton of
yeah, no, seriously, the best performer I had all week was JSN, and he was on my bench.
on
I
your
still
bench.
won. I still won. But I put 37 points on
Yeah,
my bench.
so that's unfortunate.
Still leading that league, though, so.
Um, Final 2 notes. I do want to say a mild congratulations to Daniel Jones. Finally got a touchdown pass at home.
Yeah,
So
first time in
good
like
job, buddy.
2 years. It's been a
Somebody's
bit.
getting fired.
I think
Uh,
I think Shane is. I
yeah,
don't think Dayball should be, but he's going to.
I don't think he should be at all. I think he's a
He's
great
going
head
to.
coach. He needs a quarterback.
Unfortunately, because Shane's gonna get fired, the new GM's gonna come in and just
I don't know. I don't know.
that tends to be the case.
It does tend to happen.
And you are kind of looking at it,
Maybe with Dave's track record, though.
maybe, but you are looking at a team that does just suck. Whether that's Dayball's fault or not, any GM will look at it and go, "Well,
I think if you can bring in a new GM, and then I would go get Sam Darnold.
I would do a lot of things. I would do a lot of things if I were the
Like,
Giants."
and I would try and invent a time machine.
Yeah, to go back and
And yeah, not do that. That's just
uh,
like the number one thing I would just.
there's like a couple things I would prevent from happening, and the main one is signing Daniel Jones to that contract.
Yeah.
and then letting Saquon Barkley walk. I would have, flipped the two. Would have.
Yeah.
100%.
And then did want to just talk rookie quarterbacks for a moment. Jaden Daniels continues to play really well, despite the ribs are clearly bothering him.
Yep.
I think he is kind of your runaway rookie of the year right now.
Yep.
At least offensively, playing really well. I think he's deserving of it. And the Giants obviously not a great team, but with his ribs busted up to win is awesome.
Yep.
Drake May, despite the loss, looked really good. That last
If you
minute
if you just
pick,
put a team in front of him, it
yeah,
might work. It might work.
I think there's potential there. I do. I think he looked good. It's just no roster around him.
Yeah.
Um,
That last touchdown
and
he
then
threw was kind of crazy.
yeah,
So
yeah. And then that brings us to the first overall pick in Caleb Williams, who I think has made an extreme case for his coach to be the next on the hot seat.
there's a
Um,
couple. There's definitely a couple.
I think there are two right now. I think there are two left. Um, with Eberflus and Peterson. Mike McCarthy will not get fired in season. He will not get a new contract. But he will not get fired in season. That is not what
I
Jerry
think
Jones does.
in
And he
total,
is a consistent motherfucker.
in
Useless but consistent.
total, I think there might be 3 or 4 more, but there's only 2. I think that are really hot
Who
seat.
are your others?
I think he has corrected it a bit. But had Nick Sirianni continued
Oh yeah,
that
that's
this year,
fair.
I thought maybe. And then my other one was name Colts coach.
Stefanski.
No, Steichen.
Yeah. Steichen.
Um,
Yes.
because of the Anthony Richardson situation that's currently happening. I kind of thought, and that
The fact that the Flacco thing didn't help.
yeah, that's my current.
That's fair.
I don't think he gets fired in season. I think that's a out of season decision. But
I
those would be the
don't
other 2 I'd add.
I don't know. I think it will depend on what they can do the rest of the year.
I think the same way about Sear. My point being, like,
Yeah.
I think if the season ended today, I could see Peterson and the first person you named. I can't think of the name now. Eberflus being fired.
Eberflus. Yeah.
Sirianni and Steichen, I think, need
If you
more
can't get the
time.
shit right.
Yeah. And then
I think
McCarthy doesn't
I
care.
had this thought. I feel like Sirianni, there's just so many S's.
Yeah.
Is like in the nicest way possible, a pussy Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
You want to be the tough guy and build tough guy culture, but you don't really know how.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you think about last year. They lost to the Niners at the NFC Championship game because Dan Campbell was like, I am going for it on 4th down and going for 2. That is who we are. That is what I do. Suck it. And it didn't work out. So this year, they have clearly put in systems to kind of ensure their success at that,
Yeah.
to further their demeanor,
Yeah.
their
The
culture,
culture.
their play style, all of it. Sirianni is like, I really want to be that, but I don't know how to get us there. So I'm just gonna keep calling, go for it on 4th down, and hope we get it. But there's no rhyme or reason. It's very inconsistent. And we're not drawing up plays to have actual success. And then you think about like, okay, Dan Campbell got a lot of flack for it. Now it's like the great moment of like his opening press conference of biting kneecaps. Sirianni's response is to cuss out the fan base.
Yeah.
Like it's like you're trying to be Dan Campbell,
But you just can't be.
but you suck at it. You're
I do
not
realize I forgot a name.
okay.
Um, I think Zach Taylor, the coach of the Bengals.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Mm.
if they don't make the playoffs, I think he does.
I don't think so. And the only reason I think that, because I totally agree. I totally agree with you. For any other franchise.
Okay.
But the Bengals are the cheapest motherfuckers
Okay. Okay.
on the
Okay.
planet. And if you fired him, you would have to keep paying him and then pay another head coach.
Okay.
You moved off of Jesse Bates before you paid a wide receiver for fear of paying people too much. I don't know.
Okay.
Like
You're
any other franchise, completely agree with you. This team's just way too cheap.
okay. Because that would be my only other one. I feel like.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with the point. Missing the playoffs. I think for when you look at how the offense is playing, the fact that you can't get the defense right is completely justifiable in firing. I just don't think there's any way in fuck this team willingly pays out his contract and another.
No, that's a good point. I will like. I just had the thought of like
Yeah,
they're very vastly underperforming what I think they should be, and that's how you get coaches
complete,
fired.
completely agree. And again, I think any other team, he's on the hot seat.
Okay. No, that's
I
fair.
think it's straight up. This team is cheap as shit.
All right.
Like, and the only thing I don't know. I don't know what kind of pull Burrow has. He's very clearly unhappy. Like, like most quarterbacks are like, yeah, the trade isn't my job. But they tend to kind of be like, yeah, well, the GM, he'll do what he does to put us in the best position possible. You know, they kind of talk up their management and their team. And Joe Burrow's like, it's not my fucking job. I don't know. I'm just here.
Yeah.
Team is celebrating a win, and he looks like he wants to hurt somebody, honestly.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting to see, but I'm also like, you do you, bud. You do you.
I'm going to be pretty honest with you. We talk about teams all the time regretting contracts. Like, okay, maybe we wouldn't have paid Trevor Lawrence quite so early. Maybe quarterback X or player
I
Y
was like
isn't
Deshaun
worth the
Watson,
contract. Yeah,
uh, Wilson with not Seattle, Denver.
Denver. Um, I think there are two quarterbacks this year that are like, fuck, what did I do? And I think Joe Burrow is like, fuck. And Dak is like, fuck.
Yeah,
I could have left. I could have waited, left, maybe taken a little less money, but gone to a better organization.
I especially think this for Dak, um,
Yeah.
who like seriously the Cowboys just there's so much wrong with that organization
I
from a GM standpoint.
you very clearly I think put your team in a position to be like, can my superstars rise to the occasion?
Yeah.
Do I have the quarterback like the Bills have, where he can elevate a team? Do I have a true number one wide receiver? Because we've talked about wide receiver rankings. And I think your top are the guys that are kind of alone out there. Jefferson is alone. Devontae is usually alone. So they get double covered, they get press covered, but they continue to make catches.
I would put CD
They
Lamb up there.
continue, and I'm not disagreeing with that point.
Okay. I was like,
But like, you're putting, and then do I have a pass rusher
that will
that is
consistent.
elite, that can play a consistent level of football that disrupts the other team's offense? Can these guys elevate a team? And that was the thought. And then you went, fuck it. I'm going to pay 2/3 of this, no matter the outcome. But that defeated the entire point of how you went into the season of like, I don't want to pay you without this knowledge.
Yeah.
And then you went, fuck it. I'm going to pay you anyway. All of you over the top of the market. And by the way, team still sucks.
Yeah.
And because with how this team has looked in Parsons' absence, guess what just happened to his contract value?
Shit's going
They
to the
weren't
moon.
playing great without him or with him, but it was definitely better.
Yeah. And his contract's going
So
to the fucking moon.
how are you gonna afford that when you couldn't afford Derrick Henry apparently?
There's just the Jerry Jones as a GM is just
Like,
an issue.
and I would assume you're not gonna deal him, or wouldn't you have just done?
Unless you're waiting till closer to the draft. Because he's not healthy right now.
That's fair if no team was willing to take him without him being healthy.
Yeah.
But you can't tell me who's a team.
I don't know. The Lions. You could throw them out there.
The Lions. I think the
The
Commanders would have
Bears.
been potential buy. Bears, a team that's like our defense is good,
We just
so
need
we can wait a couple weeks to get Micah Parsons for God's sakes. All right. Well, I think unless you had any other thoughts on the week
No, not really. Not
for
really.
the NFL, any NBA takes? The Nuggets are
Um,
terrible,
they are getting
by the
better.
way.
They have won a
Like,
couple games.
fucking Christ.
Jokic is still the best player in the world.
Oh my
Um,
God, yeah.
Jamal Murray has a concussion, so he's out. Aaron Gordon's going to be out for a couple weeks for the Nuggets. So that's not great.
And
But
final note, I think. I'm really impressed with. Fuck, now I don't know his name.
I can't help you.
JJ Redick. Redick.
Oh, yeah. He's an actual coach.
Yeah, it's crazy.
When you go from a dude that just.
From podcasting to being a head coach. Maybe that will be our life's trajectory,
So,
Brennan.
I do want to
Take a
comment
sport.
on this. I do want to comment on this. Darvin Ham, the coach before JJ Redick, was not an
Yeah.
actual coach. He would literally write on the board you draw plays. There's a clip of him writing stat of the game or like key to the game, contest without fouling. And he would consistently write like messages and not draw plays.
Okay.
There is now a clip of JJ Redick like drawing up like 8 plays.
So productive.
And is like, this. Do this. Whereas Ham was like, Salute to them. They're making their shots.
Some like weird cat poster shit.
Yeah. Like, who does that actually help? Like,
You know? So yeah, I'm impressed that it hasn't been like a train wreck like I kind
no,
of thought it.
I, I will
So
say it's going better than I thought it would. But again, JJ Redick is an actual head coach
yeah,
of he
he's actually
knows.
attempting to coach.
Yeah.
It's crazy when you like give 10% of a shit, the difference it makes. It's crazy.
So it is interesting to see.
All right. Well, yeah, let's talk next week and what you're going to do for us with Seattle on a bye week. Do
So
you
yeah,
have any plans?
as
We're
she
just going to be
said,
surprised.
Seattle is on a bye. Wait a second. There's a lot of
Yeah.
um Seattle's on the bye. So no game for me, no preview for me. I kind of want to leave it as a surprise as to what I was gonna do, but I
Okay.
figure I might as well tell y'all because it doesn't really matter because we've already done it. We're gonna rank QBs. That was my thing going into the season was QB ranking. So we're
Heck
gonna
yeah.
rank. I haven't decided if I want to rank every starting QB that's played so far, or just focus on the main ones. I kind of think I'm gonna do all of them. Kind of think I'm just gonna
Okay.
balls to the wall, and go for it. That
Heck yeah.
includes the likes of Joe Flacco, Anthony Richardson, Malik Willis, everybody, even if you've only
Nice.
played 2 games. Because I do think there's value in that. I won't talk much as about like a Malik Willis or
Yeah.
a Joe Flacco, but they'll still get mentioned.
It'll be
They'll be in it, so there will be more than 32 quarterbacks. So that'll be fun. That is my plan for next week since there's no Seattle game.
heck yeah. And your game of the week?
Game of the week. I went for who Seattle plays coming out of the bye week. So I'm going San Francisco at Tampa Bay. That's a 10 a.m. game. Part of me is picking this because San Francisco is Seattle's game after the bye week, and part of me is picking this because I do actually want to see Tampa Bay and San Francisco kind of go at it because I think they're very similar teams right now, and I do think this will be a really good measure of who both teams are. Um, and it will definitely help with Seattle next the week prior or week after. So yeah,
Fair.
I'm keeping it simple. San Francisco, Tampa Bay, 10 a.m.
Heck yeah. Well, Baltimore plays Cincinnati at home on Thursday night football this week. Pretty excited. I love the Ravens nighttime primetime games. They always go all out. They play really well. I am gonna try really hard to get a preview video out for you guys this week. I promise. Um, but we are recording Tuesday night. Recording, editing, and putting a video out Wednesday might just be a little under the wire. If I don't get it, that just might be what's up. Um,
To me by Wednesday, it should go out by Thursday. What might happen is I will probably prioritize that, and this will end up going out later.
um, so
Sorry.
yeah, we'll see. Maybe this week we hold off because Brendan doesn't have one. Uh, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I do apologize for the lack of information. I promise to tweet it if we do it. And then the following week, Baltimore plays Pittsburgh. So my game of the week is Pittsburgh at Washington, 10 a.m. Pacific time. This is actually, I think, going to be a pretty good game. I think this is one of the best offenses Pittsburgh is going up against. And given how the Baltimore Washington game went, I'm kind of excited to see how they stack up against Pittsburgh. I think it will be a good measuring stick. Obviously, divisional games are different, but I think it'll provide information. So, pretty excited about that. And yeah, that will be
I will say as well, just
my next
on
week.
top of that, this is probably the best defense the Commanders are going to play. So this
Yeah,
that is definitely going to be kind of fun.
good
to
to
really
see how
see.
they're stacking up.
Yeah, so
Oh,
sounds
yeah,
sounds fun for both of us actually.
should be a good week. It'll be exciting to see your quarterback rankings.
I'm gonna
And
really have to put in a lot of work on those,
yeah,
but I think it'll be worth it. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be a fun
yeah.
discussion,
No, it'll be good.
especially
It'll
with how the
especially
quarterback play has been this year.
like the quarterback play, and I just think it's a good mid-season. Like this is a good time for that.
Yeah,
You know?
especially when some quarterbacks have been benched.
Yeah,
Some have been very subpar. It'll be fun. It'll be definitely interesting. So make sure you tune in next week for that. Um, that being said, make sure subscribe, comment. Let us know if you want to see anything. Maybe if you want to comment on who your top couple QBs are, that could be
yeah,
interesting. But
could be fun.
um, other than that, I've been Brendan,
And I've been Dallas.
and this has been Flock's Nest Podcast. Thank you.